The sky on Kepler 438b was always a strange mix of purple and orange. Dr. Alan Wright still wasn't used to it after 3 months on the planet. He stood outside the main research building of Horizon Base, looking up at the alien sunset. Beautiful, isn't it? Commander Heather Phillips walked up beside him. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was crisp despite the long day. Never gets old, Alan agreed. Hard to believe we're the first humans to see it. A bark drew their attention. Rufus, Commander Phillips's German shepherd, trotted toward them. The dog's sleek coat gleamed in the fading light, and the small metal implants along his spine gave off a faint blue glow. "Hey, boy!" Heather knelt and scratched behind Rufus's ears. The dog leaned into her touch but kept his eyes alert, scanning the perimeter as always. Rufus wasn't an ordinary dog. The neural implants embedded along his spine and in his brain enhanced his already impressive canine senses and allowed limited communication with the humans. He had been Commander Phillips's companion for years, serving the research team as both emotional support and an extra set of enhanced senses. "Any updates from Earth?" Alan asked as they walked toward the command center. "Supply ship is delayed another week. Frank is not happy about it. Security Chief Frank Miller had been concerned about their supplies for weeks. The delay would stretch their resources thin." Inside the command center, a dozen screens showed different views of the camp and surrounding landscape. Horizon Base was home to 30 researchers and support staff. The collection of prefab buildings formed a rough circle, with the command center and labs at the heart. Biologist Donna Martinez looked up from her workstation. "You need to see this." She pointed to her screen, which showed microscopic images of soil samples. "The mineral deposits we found yesterday, they're even richer than we thought." Alan leaned closer. "Those readings can't be right." "Triple-checked them myself," Donna said, pushing her glasses up. "If these minerals exist in large quantities, they could revolutionize our fusion technology." "This is big," Heather said. "Greg, let's prepare a report for Earth Command immediately." Communications Specialist Greg Johnson nodded. "I'll set up a tight beam transmission for tomorrow's communication window." None of them noticed how Rufus suddenly sat up straighter, his ears perking forward. The dog turned toward the western. Perimeter nose working the air. 8 miles away, hidden in a rocky canyon, the Zorlathian scout ship settled into position. The 12-foot-tall aliens moved with surprising grace despite their bulky armor. Their skin was pale blue with patches of scales along their arms and faces. The humans continued to be unaware of our presence. Scout Leader Zex reported to the hologram of Supreme Commander Kravzak. "What defenses have you observed?" The Supreme Commander's voice was deep and grating, minimal at best. "Their perimeter has basic sensors, and only a few of the humans carry weapons. They appear to be scientists, not warriors." "And the resource? Scans?" Zex's mouth parts clicked in their equivalent of a smile. "Confirmed. The deposits are extensive. The humans have discovered only a fraction of what exists." "Excellent." Kravzak's hologram shifted as he leaned forward. "The Zorlathian. Empire claims this planet by right of strength. Prepare your strike team. Capture the humans for study and labor. Their technology and knowledge may be useful." "When do we move?" "Tonight. Their night cycle will provide cover. Disable their communications first." The hologram flickered out. Zex turned to his strike team of 20 warriors. "Prepare your weapons. Stun settings only unless resistance demands lethal force." One of the warriors, Vrex, was reviewing footage of the human camp. "What is this creature that follows the humans?" He pointed to images of Rufus. Zex glanced at the screen. "Some kind of pet. Many primitive species keep animals for company or simple tasks. Ignore it." Back at Horizon Base, the sun had set completely. The night shift took their positions. Security Officer Patricia Wilson at the main gate, Engineer Kyle Bennett in the power station, and Medical Officer Susan Clark in the infirmary. In the command center, Heather and Alan were still reviewing the mineral data. "Earth is going to want us to expand operations when they see this," Alan said, rubbing his tired eyes. "We'll need more personnel and equipment," Heather agreed. And better security. At that moment, Rufus stood up from his spot in the corner of the room. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Heather looked at him. "What is it, boy?" The dog's implants pulsed faster, and a soft ping sounded on Heather's wrist device. It was a simple, alert system that indicated Rufus had detected something unusual. "Something's wrong," she said, moving to the security console. "Patricia, do you see anything at the perimeter?" Static answered her. "Communications are down," Greg reported, working frantically at his station. "All outside channels are dead." Alan moved to the window. "Could be the magnetic storms they predicted for tonight," Rufus barked sharply once. Through their neural link, Heather received not words but impressions, movement, threat, many. Her military training kicked in instantly. "We're under attack," she said calmly. "Frank, initiate security protocol Echo 7. Security Chief Miller reached for the alarm panel, but before he could activate it, the lights flickered and died. Emergency lighting came on seconds later, bathing the room in dim red glow. "EMP pulse," Greg said. "Most of our systems are fried." Outside, dark shapes moved toward the camp from all directions. The Zorlathian strike team had disabled the perimeter sensors and were closing in quickly. Their tall forms moved with confidence, weapons ready. Zex led the first group toward the command center. "Remember, capture if possible. The humans will make valuable subjects." Vrex nodded, scanning the buildings. "No resistance detected. This will be simple." What none of them realized was that Rufus's neural implants were hardened against EMP attacks. Standard protocol for military working dogs after the Mars incident 10 years ago. While the humans scrambled to restore communications, Rufus was already executing his own protocol. The dog slipped out through an emergency hatch designed specifically for him. His enhanced vision could see the aliens clearly in the darkness. His implants mapped their positions and identified their weapons. And most importantly, his neural link to certain camp systems remained active. Hidden compartments in buildings throughout the camp began to silently open, revealing weapons caches that only Rufus or Commander Phillips could access. Backup power systems designed to resist EMP damage began warming up. As the first Zorlathian warriors reached the edge of the camp, none of them noticed the shadow moving through the darkness. None of them realized that the simple pet they had dismissed was the camp's most dangerous defender, and none of them would escape to warn their empire about the mistake they had just made. Squad leader Vrex moved forward with confidence. The human camp lay before him, most of its lights now dark after the EMP blast. His team of 4 warriors spread out behind him in perfect formation. All of them stood nearly 12 feet tall, their blue-scaled skin barely visible under their combat armor. "Remember," Vrex said quietly, "the Supreme Commander wants prisoners. Use stun settings." The warriors clicked their mandibles in agreement. Their race had conquered 3 planetary systems before, and none had offered much resistance. These, humans isolated on this distant world, would be easy targets. Vrex activated his helmet's thermal vision. He could see heat signatures moving frantically inside the main building. The humans were confused, disorganized. "Perfect. Team 1, approach from the west," he ordered through his comm unit. "Team 2, east entrance. Team 3, secure the perimeter. Move now." None of them noticed the shadow that detached itself from behind a supply crate. None of them saw Rufus, his enhanced eyes tracking their every move. Inside the command center, Commander Heather Phillips was far from panicked. 20 years in Earth's Space Defense Force had prepared her for moments like this. "Frank, get everyone to their emergency positions," she ordered Security Chief Miller. "Greg, try the backup communications array." Dr. Alan Wright opened a hidden panel in the wall revealing a cache of weapons. "Who do you think they are? Does it matter?" Heather checked her laser pistol. "They cut communications and hit us with an EMP. Not exactly a friendly hello." Frank nodded grimly. "I'll get our people armed." Heather felt a faint tingle from her neural link with Rufus. Not words, but impressions, movement patterns, numbers, positions. Rufus was feeding her tactical information. 12 hostiles approaching, she reported. 4 from the west, 4 from the east, 4 securing the perimeter. Alan looked at her in surprise. How do you know that? Heather tapped the small implant behind her ear. Rufus is on the move. Outside, Vrek signaled his team to approach the main entrance. The door appeared to be locked down, but their cutting tools would make short work of it. He raised his hand to signal the start of the breach. He never completed the gesture. Something slammed into him from behind with incredible force. Sharp teeth tore through the less protected area between his helmet and body armor. Vrex felt searing pain as his throat was ripped open. He tried to scream but could only make a wet gurgling sound. The warrior behind him raised his weapon, but the attacker was already gone, a shadow disappearing between buildings. Vrex collapsed to the ground, blue blood pooling beneath him. "Leader down," the warrior shouted into his comm. "Unknown attacker, moving too fast to—" His transmission cut off as Rufus struck again, this time leaping straight at the warrior's faceplate. The enhanced dog's claws, designed to gain purchase on any surface, scratched deep grooves in the transparent material. The warrior stumbled backward, firing wildly. Rufus was already gone, moving with impossible speed enhanced by his implants. Across the camp, similar scenes unfolded. The Zorlathian raiders found themselves under attack by something they couldn't predict. It struck from the shadows, always targeting the most vulnerable points in their armor, always disappearing before they could respond. In the command center, Greg Johnson looked up from the communications console. "I've got partial systems back online. Internal comms are working." "Alert every section," Heather ordered. "Tell our people to arm themselves and prepare for defense, and patch me through to Rufus's tactical feed." A screen lit up showing jerky footage from Rufus's perspective. The dog was moving fast, but they could see glimpses of the alien raiders. They were tall, blue-skinned, and heavily armed. "Those are Zorlathians," Alan said, eyes wide. "I've seen records from the Centauri conflict. They're supposed to be on the other side of the sector." "Well, they're here now," Heather said grimly. She touched her neural link. "Rufus, disable their ships if you can." The feed changed as Rufus acknowledged the command and changed direction, heading toward where the alien ships must have landed. Meanwhile, Security Chief Frank Miller had reached the armory and begun distributing weapons to the base personnel. Unlike what the Zorlathians expected, these weren't just scientists. Every person at Horizon Base had been selected not only for their scientific expertise, but also for their ability to handle themselves in dangerous situations. It was standard protocol for deep space missions. Biologist Donna Martinez checked her laser rifle with practiced ease. "Just like the training simulations back on Earth," she said to engineer Kyle Bennett beside her. "Except this time, it's real," Kyle replied, sealing his protective vest. Frank addressed the assembled team. "They hit us hard, but they don't know what we're capable of. Commander Phillips says there are 12 hostiles. We've faced worse odds in the Proxima Centauri campaign. Remember your training." Outside, the Zorlathian raid was falling apart. Team leader Zex couldn't understand what was happening. Half his warriors weren't responding. The others reported being attacked by some kind of animal, but that made no sense. What kind of pet could take down trained Zorlathian warriors? "Fall back to the ships," Zex ordered. "We need to regroup." But when his team reached their landing site, they found their transport craft had been sabotaged. Critical navigation components had been torn out with surgical precision. Hydraulic lines were severed. The ships were grounded. "Impossible," Zex hissed. "How could the humans have known where we landed?" A low growl came from the darkness behind him. Zex turned slowly. Rufus stood 20 feet away, the metal implants along his spine glowing bright blue in the night. In his jaws were pieces of the ship's control systems. The dog's eyes reflected the starlight, intelligent and calculating. For the first time in his military career, Zex felt fear crawl up his spine. This was no ordinary animal. This was something else entirely. He raised his weapon and fired. Rufus was already moving faster than any natural creature should move. The stun blast hit empty air. Back at the camp, Commander Phillips led her team out of the command center. They moved in practiced formation, weapons ready. Status report, she called through her comm unit. East sector secure, came Frank's voice. 2 hostiles down. North clear, reported Patricia Wilson. 1 hostile neutralized. South perimeter breached but contained, said Kyle Bennett. 3 hostiles retreating toward the hills. Heather nodded. Good work. Maintain defensive positions. They may have reinforcements. The neural link with Rufus sent her new impressions. Ships damaged, enemies confused. She smiled grimly. No one would be leaving this planet tonight. Supreme Commander Kravzak was growing impatient in orbit above Kepler 438b. His strike team should have reported success by now. Status report, he demanded of his communications officer. No response. From the ground team commander. Last transmission indicated they were beginning the raid. Send another team, Kravzak ordered. Sir, we only have 1 transport craft remaining, and scanners show increased energy readings from the human camp. They may have activated defensive systems we didn't detect earlier. Kravzak growled. These were supposed to be simple scientists, not warriors. How could they be offering resistance? Prepare the transport, he ordered. I will lead the second team myself. Down on the planet, Zex and his 3 remaining warriors were surrounded. They had retreated to a clearing near their disabled ships, but now found themselves encircled by humans with weapons. And something else. Something that moved like shadow through the tall grass around them. Lower your weapons, commanded a human female stepping forward. Commander Phillips kept her laser rifle aimed steadily at the lead alien. Behind her stood Dr. Alan Wright and 20 armed base personnel, and at her side sat Rufus, alert and ready, neural implants glowing along his spine. Zex realized with sudden clarity that they had made a terrible mistake. They had dismissed the 4-legged creature as a simple pet, but looking at it now, seeing the technology integrated into its body, understanding the coordination of the camp's defense, he knew the truth. The pet had been on watch, and because of that, none of his team would escape. Supreme Commander Kravzak stood 7 feet taller than his warriors, his blue scales darker and his armor more elaborate. He glared at the view screen showing the human camp below. Half his raid team was not responding. The others reported being hunted by some creature that moved like liquid shadow. Prepare my personal transport, he ordered. I will not be defeated by primitive scientists. His second-in-command, Grex, bowed low. Commander, perhaps we should observe longer before. Are you questioning me? Kravzak's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Grex lowered his eyes. No, Supreme Commander. The transport will be ready in 10 minutes. Down on the planet, Commander Heather Phillips watched as Security Chief Frank Miller and his team secured the 4 captured Zorlathians. The aliens towered over the humans, but with their weapons confiscated and wrists bound, they no longer seemed so threatening. Put them in the storage building, Heather ordered. We'll convert it to a holding cell. Dr. Alan Wright studied the aliens with scientific curiosity. I never thought I'd see Zorlathians this far from their territory. The reports from the Centauri conflict described them as staying close to their home systems. Expanding their empire, most likely, Heather said. She felt a familiar tingle through her neural link with Rufus. The dog was sending her impressions of movement in the sky. Something big was coming. She touched her comm unit. All personnel, prepare for a second wave. Get to defensive positions. Rufus trotted to her side, his implants pulsing with information. Through their link, she could sense what he had detected. A larger ship approaching, more enemies, greater weapons. Greg, she called to communications specialist Greg Johnson. How's our comm system? Greg looked up from his portable workstation. Still patchy, but I might be able to get a message to the Neptune station. They could relay to Earth. Do it. Tell them we need backup. We've made first contact with Zorlathians, and it wasn't friendly. Biologist Donna Martinez approached, her lab coat now covered by body armor. The aliens' physiology is fascinating. Their blood contains copper instead of iron, making it blue, and their skin has photosynthetic properties. Save the science for later, Heather said, but she smiled slightly. Even in danger, scientists remained scientists. Rufus suddenly stiffened, his attention focused on the captive Zorlathians. The alien called Zex was watching the dog with intense focus. "Your creature," Zex said in halting English, his translator, device working despite the EMP damage. "What is it?" Heather walked closer. "His name is Rufus. He's a German Shepherd, a breed of dog from Earth. And as your team discovered, he's not just a pet." Zex clicked his mandibles. "Our scans showed no weapons in your camp, no defenses." "That's because Rufus is our defense," Heather replied. "Enhanced senses, neural implants, tactical training, and a neural link to our systems. On Earth, dogs have been soldiers' companions for thousands of years." The alien's eyes widened slightly. "You use animals as weapons?" "Partners," Heather corrected. "Not weapons. There's a difference." Alan joined them, his scientific curiosity overcoming caution. "Why did you attack us? We're a research mission, not a military outpost." Before Zex could answer, Rufus barked sharply and looked toward the sky. Through their neural link, Heather received urgent impressions. "Danger. Incoming. Above. Everyone inside," she shouted. "Air attack coming." The humans scattered to the buildings just as a massive shadow fell over the camp. The Zorlathian command ship was 3 times larger than the scouts' vessels, its hull bristling with weapons. It hovered 200 feet above the ground, engines rumbling. Inside the command center, Heather activated the tactical display. The backup systems were online now and their sensors could track the alien vessel. "They're scanning us," Greg reported. "Trying to find their people, probably." "Can they detect our weapons caches?" Frank asked. Heather shook her head. "The caches are shielded, standard protocol for deep space missions after the Ganymede incident." What the Zorlathians couldn't know was that Horizon Base wasn't just a scientific outpost. After losing 3 research stations to various threats in the past decade, Earth Command had changed its approach. Every deep space mission now included military veterans, hidden defenses, and contingency plans for first contact gone wrong. Outside, the alien ship's weapons powered up, targeting the main building. Heather touched her neural link. "Rufus, activate Protocol Phoenix." The dog, hidden in the shadows between buildings, received the command. His neural implants connected to hidden systems throughout the camp. Suddenly, what had appeared to be simple research equipment transformed. Solar panels shifted position, revealing energy weapons beneath. Weather monitoring towers split open, deploying shield generators. Geological survey markers rose from the ground, becoming a perimeter defense grid. Inside the alien ship, Supreme Commander Kravzak watched in disbelief as the supposedly defenseless human camp transformed before his eyes. "Impossible," he growled. The scouts reported no military capabilities. His tactical officer worked frantically at the controls. "They were hidden, Commander. Our scans are now detecting multiple weapon systems activating. Shield generators coming online." "Fire main? Cannons," Kravzak ordered. "Destroy them before their defenses are fully activated." The ship's weapons discharged, sending deadly energy beams toward the camp. They struck a shimmering barrier that had appeared 50 feet above the buildings. The shields held, though they flickered under the assault. From concealed positions, around the camp perimeter, return fire erupted. Precision energy blasts struck the alien ship's engines and weapons arrays. Not enough to destroy the vessel, but enough to damage its offensive capabilities. Kravzak snarled in rage. "Find me the command center. Target their leaders." Below, Rufus moved with purpose toward the rear of the camp, where a small, unmarked building stood. This was the camp's true command center, a hardened structure designed to withstand direct attacks. Commander Phillips and her key personnel gathered inside, monitoring the battle. "Shields at 60%, reported Engineer Kyle Bennett. "They're hitting us hard." "Return fire," Heather ordered. "Target their weapon systems only. We want them disabled, not destroyed." On her screen, she could see Rufus's perspective as the dog moved between defensive positions, adjusting targeting parameters and rerouting power. His training and neural enhancements made him more effective than 3 human technicians would have been. In the alien ship, systems were failing as the surprisingly effective human defenses continued their counterattack. "We must retreat," Grex urged his commander. "We underestimated them. We need to return with a proper invasion force." Kravzak struck him across the face. "Zorlathians do not retreat. Prepare a landing party. We will capture their command center ourselves." As transport pods began dropping from the main ship, Heather watched on the tactical display with grim satisfaction. "They're coming to us," she said. "Just as we planned." Security Chief Frank Miller checked his weapon. "How many?" "Looks like 20 warriors plus one very large one. Probably their commander." Alan looked nervous but determined. "We're outnumbered." Heather smiled slightly. "But not outmatched. And they still don't understand what they're really fighting against." Through her neural link, she sent a new command to Rufus. "Hunt." Outside, the dog's eyes gleamed in the darkness as he began stalking his new prey. The Zorlathian transport pods landed in a wide circle around the human camp. Each pod opened with a hiss of pressure, and warriors emerged with weapons ready. Unlike the scout team, these warriors wore heavy combat armor with full helmets that concealed their blue-scaled faces. Supreme Commander Kravzak stepped from his personal transport. His massive form towered over his warriors, his armor more elaborate and adorned with symbols of past victories. "Secure the perimeter," he ordered. "Find their leaders and bring them to me." The warriors moved out in groups of 3, approaching the seemingly quiet camp. The human building stood dark and silent. No movement could be seen. "They are hiding," Grex said, standing at his commander's side. "Let them hide," Kravzak responded. "It will not save them." What the Zorlathians didn't realize was that they were being watched from multiple angles. Hidden cameras tracked their movements. Sensors mapped their armor for weaknesses, and one particular set of eyes observed them with deadly purpose. Rufus crouched beneath a research vehicle, his enhanced vision easily cutting through the darkness. His neural implants processed what he saw, identifying the lead alien by size and armor type. Through his link with Commander Phillips, he shared this information. Inside the hardened command center, Heather studied the tactical display showing the aliens' positions. "Their commander has joined the attack," she told her team. "That's either very good or very bad for us." "How so?" asked Alan, who stood nearby checking the power levels on his laser pistol. "Good because it means we hurt them enough to get their attention. Bad because it means they'll throw everything they have at us. Now," Security Chief Frank Miller pointed to the display. "They've landed 24 warriors plus their commander. We have 28 people total, including science staff. And Rufus," Heather added with a slight smile. "He counts for at least 5 more." Greg Johnson looked up from the communications console. "I got a message through to Neptune Station. Help is coming, but the nearest combat-capable ship is 4 days out." "Then we hold for 4 days," Heather said calmly. "We've got supplies, strong defenses, and they don't know what they're really facing." Outside, the alien warriors approached the main research building. Finding the door sealed, they planted explosive charges and stepped back. The blast echoed across the camp, but when the smoke cleared, the door remained intact. "Human construction is stronger than expected," one warrior reported. "Find another way in," ordered the squad leader. Behind them, something moved through the shadows. The last warrior in line felt a brief tug at his armor, then nothing. He turned, saw nothing, and continued forward. What he didn't realize was that Rufus had just planted a small device on his back armor plate. Similar devices were being attached to warriors throughout the camp, each one carefully placed by a shadow that moved too quickly to be noticed. Inside the command center, Engineer Kyle Bennett monitored his screen with growing excitement. "The tracker tags are being deployed. 15 confirmed placements so far." "Excellent," Heather said. She touched her neural link with Rufus. "Good boy. Get back to safe position now." Through the link, she felt Rufus's acknowledgement, but also his reluctance. The dog wanted to continue the hunt. He had been trained for this, enhanced for this, but Heather knew the next phase of their defense needed him alive and coordinating from safety. "Fall back, Rufus," she ordered more firmly. That's an order. This time, she felt his acceptance. On the tactical screen, a small blue dot representing Rufus began moving toward their position. Supreme Commander Kravzak grew impatient as his warriors reported no success in breaching the buildings. Use the ship's weapons, he ordered Grex. Target the main structure. But Commander, our people are too close to the target, Grex protested. They are warriors of the Empire. They know the cost of victory, Kravzak responded coldly. Grex sent the order to the ship hovering above. Its main cannon swiveled toward the largest human building. Before it could fire, 3 concealed defense turrets activated around the camp perimeter. They fired simultaneously, targeting the ship's main weapon. The precision blasts struck exactly where the cannon connected to the power source. There was a bright flash and the cannon drooped, disabled. How? Kravzak roared. How? Are they targeting so precisely? The answer came a moment later when one of his warriors called out an alarm. The warrior clawed at his back armor, finding a small device attached to it. Similar cries came from warriors across the camp as they discovered the tracking devices. They've tagged us, Grex realized. Their targeting systems are locked onto the devices. Kravzak smashed a nearby research sensor in rage. Remove them! Remove them all! But it was too late. The defense system was fully online now, and more turrets emerged from hidden positions. They fired stun blasts calibrated specifically for Sorlathian physiology, based on the data collected from the captured scouts. Warriors began falling across the camp, their nervous systems overloaded. Inside the command center, Rufus had rejoined Commander Phillips. The dog sat beside her chair, his neural implants pulsing as he coordinated the defense systems through his link. 16 hostiles neutralized, reported Frank. Their commander? Heather asked. Still active, moving toward the north side with 5 warriors. Heather studied the display. They're headed for the backup generator. They must have scanned our power distribution. She turned to Kyle. Can we reroute? The engineer shook his head. Not without dropping shields for at least 30 seconds. Then we defend it physically, Heather decided. She stood and checked her weapon. Frank, you're with me. Alan, you're in command until we return. Rufus stays here to coordinate defenses. Dog whined softly, not wanting to be separated from her. I need you here, boy, she told him, scratching behind his ears. Keep everyone safe. Rufus understood. His training and the neural link allowed him to comprehend complex concepts. He would continue coordinating the automated defenses while Heather led the physical counterattack. Heather and Frank moved through the underground tunnel connecting the command center to other key buildings. 6 security team members joined them along the way, all armed and armored. On the surface, Supreme Commander Kravzak had realized the humans were targeting his warriors through the attached devices. But rather than having his remaining forces remove them, he turned this to his advantage. Collect the devices from the fallen warriors, he ordered. Place them all on that vehicle. His warriors quickly gathered the tracking tags and placed them on an abandoned human transport. The defense turrets immediately swiveled to target it. Now we can move untracked, Kravzak said with satisfaction. The main power source is there. He pointed to a small building on the north side of the camp. Destroy it and their shields will fall. His 5 remaining warriors moved out, now invisible to the automated targeting system. Inside the command center, Alan noticed the problem. Immediately. The trackers are all in one place, they figured it out. Through his neural implants, Rufus also understood what had happened. But unlike the automated systems, he didn't rely solely on the electronic trackers. His enhanced senses could detect the aliens by scent, sound, and thermal signatures. The dog barked once and new information flowed through his link to the tactical system. The display updated, showing the true positions of the remaining aliens. Incredible, Greg said. Rufus is tracking them through his senses and updating our targeting. Outside, Kravzak and his warriors approached the generator building, confident they were now undetected. They planted explosive charges on the door and prepared to detonate them. The door suddenly opened from inside. Commander Heather Phillips stood there with her team, weapons aimed directly at the surprised aliens. Looking for something? She asked calmly. Supreme Commander Kravzak stared at the human female standing in the doorway. She was less than half his size, yet she showed no fear. Behind her stood 7 other humans, all with weapons pointed at him and his warriors. "Surrender now, Commander," Heather Phillips said calmly. "Your ship is disabled. Most of your warriors are captured. There's no need for more violence." Kravzak let out a roar of rage. "Zorlathians do not surrender to inferior species." He raised his weapon, a massive energy cannon built into his armor. Heather sighed. "I was afraid you'd say that." Before Kravzak could fire, something slammed into him from behind. Rufus had emerged from a hidden tunnel behind the aliens. The dog's teeth clamped onto a weak point in the commander's armor, right at the joint of his arm. The massive alien roared in pain as the weapon discharged wildly into the sky. The other aliens turned to face this new threat, giving Heather and her team the opening they needed. They fired their weapons simultaneously. Stun blasts struck 3 warriors, dropping them instantly. The remaining 2 fired back, forcing the humans to take cover inside the doorway. Kravzak struggled with Rufus, trying to shake the dog off his arm. Despite the alien's enormous size and strength, Rufus held on, his enhanced muscles and reinforced skeleton allowing him to maintain his grip. The implants along his spine glowed bright blue as they provided extra power to his systems. "Get this creature off me," Kravzak bellowed to his remaining warriors. One turned to help his commander, but Security Chief Frank Miller took careful aim and dropped him with a precision shot. The last warrior standing backed away, looking from the humans to his struggling commander and clearly calculating his odds. He dropped his weapon. "I surrender," he said through his translator. Heather nodded to 2 of her team, who moved forward to secure him. Smart choice. Meanwhile, Kravzak had finally managed to grab Rufus with his massive hand. He lifted the dog into the air, squeezing hard enough to crush a normal animal. But Rufus was far from normal. His reinforced skeleton held, and the pressure sensors in his implants sent alerts through his neural link. Inside the command center, Alan Wright saw the danger through Rufus's data feed. "Rufus is in trouble. The commander has him." Greg Johnson hit a series of controls. "Activating emergency protocol." Outside, Rufus's implants suddenly discharged a powerful electrical pulse designed specifically for this situation. Thousands of volts surged through Kravzak's armor, overloading its systems. The alien commander convulsed and dropped to his knees, releasing Rufus in the process. The dog landed gracefully and backed away, keeping his eyes on the fallen alien. Kravzak's armor sparked and smoked, its power systems fried by the electrical discharge. Heather approached cautiously, her weapon trained on the Supreme Commander. "It's over. Your warriors are captured, your ship is disabled, and now you're defenseless." Kravzak looked up, his alien features twisted with rage and disbelief. How? How could simple humans defeat the might of the Zorlathian Empire? Heather smiled slightly. "We're not just simple humans. Every person at this base is a veteran of either the Mars incident or the Centauri conflict. We're scientists, yes, but we're also trained for combat and survival." She reached down to pat Rufus, who had come to her side. "And we have him. Enhanced German Shepherd with military-grade neural implants, tactical training, and a direct link to our defense systems. On Earth, we've worked alongside dogs for thousands of years. They've been our companions, our protectors." "A pet," Kravzak spat the word. "You defeated an Imperial strike force with a pet." "Not just a pet," Heather corrected. "A partner. You made 3 critical mistakes today. You underestimated humans. You attacked without provocation. And most importantly, you ignored Rufus because you thought he was insignificant." Frank Miller and his team moved forward to secure Kravzak. The Supreme Commander did not resist as they disabled what remained of his armor's systems and bound his massive wrists. With the immediate threat neutralized, Heather touched her comm unit. "This is Commander Phillips. The alien leader is captured. All hostiles neutralized. Status report?" "Command center secure," came Alan's voice. "All defense systems operational." "Perimeter secure," reported Patricia Wilson. "No signs of additional enemy forces." "Medical checking in," said Susan Clark. 4 of our people with minor injuries. No casualties." Heather smiled with relief. "Good work, everyone. Bring all prisoners to the central plaza for processing. An hour later, the sun began to rise over Horizon Base. The orange-purple light illuminated an unusual scene in the central plaza. 24 Zorlathian warriors and their commander sat in rows, guarded by armed humans. Their armor had been removed, leaving them in simple bodysuit undergarments that revealed their blue-scaled skin. Commander Phillips stood before them, with Rufus sitting alertly at her side. The dog's implants had shifted to a calmer blue pulse now that the danger had passed. Your attack on our research base was unprovoked and unjustified, she told the aliens. Under interstellar law established during the Proxima Centauri Accords, we would be within our rights to execute you all as hostile combatants. A murmur ran through the alien prisoners. Supreme Commander Kravzak glared but said nothing. However, Heather continued, we are scientists first, and we believe in learning from new experiences. You will be held here until our support ship arrives. Then you will be transported to Earth for formal diplomatic proceedings. Dr. Alan Wright stepped forward. We hope this unfortunate first contact can lead to something more positive. Our species don't need to be enemies. Kravzak finally spoke. The Zorlathian Empire does not negotiate with lesser species. Then the Empire will need to reconsider its position, Heather replied calmly. Because as you've learned today, humans are not as lesser as you thought, and we have some remarkable allies. She glanced down at Rufus. The message sent to Neptune Station had been received. And Earth. Command was dispatching not just one ship but an entire diplomatic fleet. The first contact with the Zorlathians may have started with violence, but there was still hope for peaceful resolution. Later that evening, Commander Phillips sat in her quarters reviewing reports. Rufus lay on the floor beside her desk, resting after his extraordinary efforts. The dog's implants pulsed softly as system diagnostics ran. You know, she said to him, scratching behind his ears. You're going to be famous when this report reaches Earth. The dog who saved a research base from alien invaders. Rufus just wagged his tail slightly. He didn't need fame or recognition. He had done what he was trained to do, protect his humans, his pack. And he had succeeded completely. The Zorlathians had raided the human camp, but the pet had been on watch, and not one of them had escaped. The end.